Good morning, everyone. As you heard me say last night, we are humbled by the trust that the American people have placed in us. And we recognize this is a time for us to roll up our sleeves and go to work on the people's priorities, creating jobs, cutting spending, and reforming the way Congress does its business. It's not just what the American people are demanding, it's what they are expecting from us. And the real question now is this: are we going to listen to the American people? Republicans have made a pledge to America, and our pledge is to listen to the American people and to focus on their priorities, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Last night, the president was kind enough to call me. We discussed working together on the American people's priorities, cutting spending, creating jobs. And we hope that he will continue to be willing to work with us on those priorities. But as I said last night, the new majority here in Congress will be the voice of the American people, and I think we clearly expressed that last night. We're going to continue and renew our efforts for a smaller, less costly, and more accountable government here in Washington, D.C. I also want to say thanks to my two colleagues. As most of you know, Senator McConnell and I have worked very closely together over the last 5 years or so. Haley, Barbour, and I have been friends for the last 20 years, and we have a real partnership, and I'm proud to stand here today with both of them. Mitch?
Well, at the risk of this sounding like a mutual admiration society, let me also say what a pleasure it's been to work with John the last 4 years in our leadership roles. And I, too, have known Haley for 20 years, a great friend, and this is a happy day for the three of us. Let me make a few observations as well. We are indeed humbled and ready to listen to the American people and to lead on the issues that they've clearly indicated they care about. We're determined to stop the agenda Americans have rejected and to turn the ship around. We'll work with the administration when they agree with the people and confront them when they don't. I think what our friends on the other side learned is that choosing the president over your constituents is not a good strategy. This election yesterday was clearly a referendum on the administration and the Democratic majority here in the Congress. Ignoring the voters and their wishes, as you could see during the entire 2-year period, produces predictable results. And the health care bill, in my view, was sort of a metaphor for the government excess that we witnessed over the last 2 years. The American people watched the government running banks, insurance companies, car companies, taking over the student loan business, and then they said, now they're taking my health care as well, and I think it just became the tipping point during the course of the last 2 years. I would say to our friends on the other side of the aisle, and listening to what they've had to say this morning, they may have missed the message somewhat. I get the impression they're thinking, their view is that we haven't cooperated enough. I think what the American people were saying yesterday is that they appreciated us saying no to the things that the American people indicated they were not in favor of. So I think the group that should hopefully get the message out of yesterday's elections is our friends on the other side of the aisle. And we hope that they will pivot in a different direction, work with us on things like spending and debt and trade agreements and nuclear power and clean coal technology and other things the president has said that he's for, that most of my members are for. So the question is, how do we meet in the middle? And it seems to me the best strategy for the other side would be to listen to the voters yesterday. They made a clear statement about what they'd like to see done. If the president comes in our direction, obviously we want to make progress for the country over the next 2 years. With that, let me turn to Governor Barbour.
Thank you, Mitch. John, thank you for allowing me to be here. On behalf of the Republican governors, while governors' races may be thought of as being separate or very different from what's going on in Washington, in this case, even in governors' races, this election was a referendum on Obama's policies and the policies of the Obama administration, the Pelosi-Reed Congress, were repudiated by the voters. Governors, and I would say a lot of Democratic governors, I believe, will agree with this. Going forward, governors believe that we can work with the Congress to try to set things in a better direction. The voters yesterday voted against excessive spending, piling up deficits, trillions of dollars of new debt being loaded on our children and grandchildren, a huge tax increase right around the corner in January, and a government-run healthcare system. We governors, because almost all of us have to have a balanced budget, we have to cut spending. I can remember when my career in Washington was going on, a spending cut was the department's budget was supposed to go up 8%. It only went up 5%, so that's a 3% cut. In state governments, we have learned to make real cuts, and we've learned to do it while providing services. And I hope that will be something that will be an example for the new Congress. We look forward to working with them and appreciate their support in helping us get here. Thank you.
Have you spoken to Nancy Pelosi today, and how do you see yourself integrating all this Tea Party activism into the structure of the House?
The Speaker attempted to reach me this morning, left me a very nice voicemail, and I expect that we will have a very smooth transition with her office. What unites us as Republicans will be the agenda of the American people. And if we're listening to the American people, I don't see any problems incorporating members of the Tea Party along with our party in the quest that's really the same. They want us to cut spending and focus on creating jobs in America.
What do you think prospects are for this year, Congress doing the Bush tax cut renewal, and would you be open to some sort of a less than permanent continuation?
We continue to believe that extending all of the current tax rates for all Americans is the right policy for our economy at this time.
Two questions. What made you cry last night? And secondly, do you think you can bring stability back to the House?
Most of you know it gets a little difficult to talk about my background or talk about my family, and I thought I was going to be in good shape, but not as good as it turned out.
Mr. Boehner, the exit polls last night said that 53% of Americans have an unfavorable view of the Republican Party, almost the same as the Democratic Party. So what does that tell you about how you have to govern and perhaps vote for Democrats?
Tells me that what we need to do is to listen to the American people. They sent a very loud message last night, not only to the House and to the Senate, but if you look at the number of Republican governors that won, the number of Republican legislative bodies that won, it's pretty clear the American people want a smaller, less costly, and more accountable government here in Washington, D.C. And if the American people see us doing things that they're telling us to do, I think we'll do just fine.
Mr. Boehner, I know that all of you, and Senator McConnell, this is for you too. I know that all of you have been reading about '94 and how, you know, the mistakes and pitfalls of your colleagues, of which you were actually part of. I wonder what are the lessons you take away from that? How will you govern differently this time? And Senator McConnell, how does it affect what you will do in the Senate since you don't have a majority now just yet?
Well, I think it's important to listen to the American people. There are more Americans engaged in our government today than I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I think the real key to having real success for the American people is to keep the American people engaged in this process beyond last night. The government will do exactly what the American people demand every day, nothing more, nothing less, if they stay engaged in the process. And I'm very hopeful that they will.
Do you want me to address that? Well, I think clearly the election yesterday did not transfer full control of the government to the opposition. It was a first step in the direction of changing what we've been doing in Washington. There are two opportunities for that change to occur. Our friends on the other side can change now and work with us to address the issues that are important to the American people that we all understood. Or further change obviously can happen in 2012. But in the meantime, we were sent here to work on the people's business. And over in the Senate, where a majority is not enough in any event, and it takes 60 votes to do most things, it's clear that we're going to have some kind of bipartisan agreement. And hopefully that will be on the issues of spending and debt, which is what the American people are asking us to address. In other words, I anticipate, we'll see, but I anticipate enough Democrats to come in our direction on spending and debt to where we can actually make progress for the American people.
Mr. Boehner, there is, differing points of view in your conference about what to do about earmarks, what to do about the debt limit. Mr. Cantor and Mr. McCarthy said we'll only have a vote up or down to raise or not raise the debt limit here. How are you going to be able to operationally do some of these things when there are competing factions in your conference on what to do on these two issues?
Well, that's what the transition's for. Help give us a little time to figure out how we do those big things that need to be done on behalf of the American people.
A little bit more about your conversation with the president. Did you discuss any areas of common agreement? Are there any?
Like I said, the president and I had a very pleasant conversation. We agreed that we needed to listen to the American people. We needed to work together on behalf of the American people. And I look forward to having the opportunity to talk with him about those areas where we can move together.
Are you going to agreement with the president right now?
Leader Boehner, next Congress, it looks like one of the first early tests will be increasing the debt limit. Tea Party, the wave of Tea Party candidates, they'll likely oppose that. How will you work with them to achieve that?
We'll be working that out over the next couple of months.
Boehner, are you going
the 2008 spending levels during the lame duck? Will you try to do that?
I believe that operating under the 2008 levels of spending before the bailouts, before the stimulus, is a responsible way forward.
Leader Boehner, are you going to continue the U-Cut program? Are you going to formalize this sort of link between American people online and, your administration in the Capitol?
We are going to continue to talk to the American people every day, and we're going to continue to listen to the American people every day. And programs like U-Cut, programs like America Speaking Out, and some other ideas that we'll outline here in the coming days will be intended to provide the American people a forum and a vehicle to talk to us so that we can, in fact, listen every day.
Mr. Speaker?
We know that House Republicans have pledged to repeal and replace the president's health care reform, but you've got an upcoming appropriations process. Do you plan to try and use that appropriations process to defund the reform law?
Listen, I believe that the health care bill that was enacted by the current Congress will kill jobs in America, ruin the best health care system in the world, and bankrupt our country. That means that we have to do everything we can to try to repeal this bill and replace it with common sense reforms that will bring down the cost of health insurance. All right, last one.
What about jobs, Mr. Boehner? What about financial reform, specifically the Dodd-Frank bill? Do you have plans to try and change that? Would you hope to change that in the new session? Do you expect that Spencer Backus will head the financial reform committee?
I think one of the things that Congress has not done a very good job of over the last 15 years is real oversight. And I'm not talking about gotcha oversight. I'm talking about rock-solid oversight of the executive branch, which is a constitutional responsibility of the Congress. And I think when it comes to the financial services bill and the 358 regulatory filings required under that bill, that it's going to require a significant amount of oversight. So that not only will the Congress understand, but the American people understand just what this bill will do to our financial services industry. Thank you all very much.
Could you answer the question about the perception of the GOP?